Welcome to the deep dive. Your mission today, if you're listening, is highly specific, but honestly, it's incredibly important.
Oh, absolutely. It's a big one.
Yeah, because you are looking for a narrative that is perfectly tailored for elementary schoolers. Like an inspirational story suitable for children to understand, but one that goes way beyond just, simple entertainment.
Right. You want a fantastic, stealthy tool for vocabulary building, something that teaches kids about resilience, internal validation, and character.
Exactly. And you need to do all that without it sounding like a dry, boring textbook.
Which is the hardest part, really.
It is. So to accomplish this mission, we are pulling from an absolute classic piece of source material today. We're looking at Stan and Jan Berenstain's legendary book, The Berenstain Bears and the Big Road Race.
Yeah, and I mean, at first glance, it looks like a standard picture book, right? Just colorful cars driving fast on the surface.
Right, exactly.
But when you analyze the text, it actually operates as a masterclass in character flaws. It showcases all the different ways ego manifests. I'd argue it's essentially a modernized, highly psychological adaptation of The Tortoise and the Hare.
I totally agree, which is why we are going to break down exactly how you can use this in your classroom or, your living room. But before we get to the vocabulary words and the lessons, let's set the scene for your students.
Please do. The setup is brilliant.
Right. So usually when we picture a starting line for a high-stakes race, we expect to see this lineup of pure, unadulterated power, like a row of intimidating giants just waiting to be unleashed.
And the authors establish that tension immediately, right? Through sound and description.
They really do. So there are 4 big cars. We have orange, which is described as long and low. We have yellow, who is ready to go. Then there's green, who is explicitly called big and mean. And finally, there is blue.
And those 4, they really represent the quintessential archetype of a competitor. I mean, they are loud, they're aggressive, and they're taking up an enormous amount of space.
Oh, totally.
And the text gives us their auditory footprint before the race even starts. Yellow goes vroom, green goes grrr, blue lets out a roar. It's this deliberate cacophony designed entirely to intimidate.
Yeah, it's a lot of noise. And sitting right next to these titans of the road, like at the very end of that starting line, is a tiny beat-up little car named Little Red.
Just minding his own business.
Right. While all this macho revving is happening, Little Red just go putt-putt. That is it. Just putt-putt.
It's such a stark contrast.
It really is. And the way this dynamic unfolds from this very moment offers the absolute perfect blueprint for teaching kids about the pitfalls of arrogance and, the quiet, undeniable power of consistency.
So the starter's flag waves, and that contrast is just immediate. Off speed, the Giants putting on this massive show, racing over, under, around, and through the town and the country scene.
And Little Red is left literally coughing in a cloud of dust.
Exactly, just left behind entirely.
Okay, let's unpack this, because this is the very first conceptual lesson for your students. Establishing a dynamic they are probably already intimately familiar with.
Yeah, the playground dynamic.
Right. When the big cars speed away and see Red struggling in the dust, their reaction isn't sportsmanship. They laugh. They literally say, ha ha ha.
Which is just awful.
It is. They mock Little Red as a joke, and they label him. They call him an old slowpoke. And this is the first anchor word for your vocabulary list to teach the kids slowpoke.
What's fascinating here is the underlying mechanism of that mockery. Like, notice the dynamic of noise versus action.
Oh, that's a really good point.
Yeah, the big cars are relying entirely on intimidating sounds and outward bravado. They actively need to roar, and more importantly, they need to look back and label Red a slowpoke to secure their own status.
Right. It's not enough to just be fast. They have to put him down.
Exactly. It demonstrates to kids that their confidence is entirely extrinsic. It relies on someone else being smaller, slower, or just humiliated.
Think about how relatable that analogy is for an elementary schooler. I mean, that starting line is exactly like a school playground or the cafeteria.
Oh, 100%. It's the exact same environment.
You always have those loud, flashy kids who try to dominate the physical space. And when they feel insecure, they often target the quiet kid, using unfair, dismissive labels to artificially inflate their own sense of importance.
Yeah, to make themselves feel bitter.
Right. So teaching the word slowpoke in this context isn't just about defining a word related to speed. It's actually a doorway into talking about bullying.
It allows an educator to ask the students a critical question like, why do people use labels? The big cars didn't just want to win, they wanted Red to know he was losing.
Yeah, the cruelty is the point.
Exactly. But the true pedagogical value comes from examining Red's reaction to the label. He doesn't panic. He doesn't suddenly try to emit a grrr or a roar to match their energy.
He doesn't change who he is.
Right. The text explicitly states that Little Red just said what he said before, putt, 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 putt.
He refuses to internalize their definition of him. That is such a powerful concept for a child to grasp. You could explain it to them, like the set. Red knows his engine's capacity is putt-putt.
It's just a mechanical fact.
Right. A flashy label from a bully doesn't magically change the physics of his engine, so why should it change his attitude? He just owns it and moves forward.
Which sets the stage for the rest of the narrative. Red is just surviving in dead last, completely unbothered by the noise. Meanwhile, the frontrunners, who are supposedly vastly superior, begin to self-destruct.
It's so ironic.
It is. We start seeing the practical consequences of operating solely on ego.
Well, rather than just reading the events in order,
Yeah.
let's look at the progression of how this facade of invincibility cracks. Because it starts with the sheer vanity of Yellow.
Oh, Yellow. Yeah.
Yellow takes an early lead and immediately shouts, "I cannot lose." He declares to everyone listening that a first-place finish is his absolute goal.
Just setting himself up for failure.
Totally. The authors describe Yellow as a very boastful sort of fellow. He is so incredibly busy bragging about his inevitable victory that he completely fails to monitor the actual environment.
Right, the physical reality of the road.
Clunk, he hits a pothole.
Ah,
Which gives us two incredibly paired vocabulary words for your lesson plan right there. Boastful and pothole.
those are great words to pair together.
Yeah, because Yellow's literal obstacle is a pothole. But it's vital to explain to your students that his metaphorical obstacle, the actual reason he crashed, is his boastful nature.
The causality there is what really matters for the kids. Yellow's downfall is a failure of attention caused by ego depletion.
Oh, say more about that. Ego depletion.
Yeah, he is dedicating all his cognitive resources to maintaining an image, just ensuring the audience perceives him as a winner. When your eyes are locked on the stands to see who's cheering for you, you cannot see the hazards on the asphalt.
Wow, yeah. It is entirely self-inflicted.
Absolutely.
That makes me wonder, is this actually a story about a car race at all?
Yeah.
I mean, it feels much more like a stealthy morality play.
I think it definitely is.
It's like the Berenstains are using the mechanics of a race merely as a vehicle, pun intended, to expose how our own character flaws create our biggest roadblock.
Uh-huh. I like the pun. But yeah, the authors are brilliant at embedding deep philosophical truths inside very accessible rhymes. If we look at the evolution of this ego, it moves from Yellow's harmless vanity to something far more dangerous with the next driver, Orange.
Right, because the others roar past the broken-down Yellow, and Orange takes the lead, and he approaches a notoriously dangerous section of the track, literally named Dead Bear's Curve.
Just the name of the curve is a massive flashing warning sign.
Any reasonable driver would hit the brakes, but Orange refuses to slow down, and the text provides the exact psychological diagnosis for why he crashes. It says Orange was all nerve but not much sense.
And as a direct result of that imbalance, he goes right through the fence.
Right through the fence.
For a vocabulary lesson, isolating nerve and sense is just a goldmine. You can ask your students to define the difference between the two.
Yeah, how would you break that down for them?
Well, nerve is the courage, right? It's the audacity, the willingness to press the gas pedal. It is a necessary trait. But sense is the steering wheel. It is the wisdom, the judgment, the ability to read the environment and actually pace yourself.
Oh, I love the analogy of the gas pedal and the steering wheel. It makes it so visual. Having bravery is fantastic, but having bravery without a functioning brain guiding it that isn't courageous, it's just reckless.
The broader application for children here is profound. Confidence without wisdom inevitably leads to catastrophe. Orange failed because he lacked respect for the boundaries of his environment. He genuinely believed his sheer audacity could conquer physics.
So within the first half of the race, the bullies are actively eliminating themselves. Yellow was boastful and hit a pothole. Orange had all nerve and no sense and crashed through a fence.
The ego has manifested as vanity and then as recklessness.
But here's where it gets really interesting. The narrative takes a significantly darker turn here.
It really does. We transition from mistakes born of ignorance to actions born of malice.
Yeah. We move into the territory of deliberate, premeditated cheating. So we are down to Green and Blue in the front. Green, who the text already established as big and mean, decides he wants to secure his lead.
But notice who he focuses on. He only considers Blue a threat. The existence of Little Red has been completely erased from his mind.
That selective blindness is crucial. Green is operating under a completely flawed metric of what constitutes competition.
Definitely. So what does he do?
He reaches into his glove compartment, But instead of pulling out a map or like some driving gloves, he opens what the book explicitly calls the dirty tricks department.
I love that detail.
It's so good. He uses it to flatten all of the blue car's tires, completely taking blue out of the race. This phrase, dirty tricks, is the next anchor for your vocabulary list, and it opens up a massive conversation about fairness.
The capitalization of department in the text is a subtle but brilliant detail. It implies that cheating isn't just some spontaneous act of desperation for Green. It is an institutionalized part of how he operates. He came prepared with a dedicated department just for sabotage.
Wow, yeah. You can translate this directly to the classroom for your kids. You can compare Green's dirty trick to copying someone's answers on a math test, or spreading a malicious rumor about a classmate to secure a spot in a social circle.
Or intentionally tripping someone during a game at recess?
Exactly. It is the active choice to sabotage a peer, rather than doing the hard work to improve your own performance.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to acknowledge to kids that cheating often works in the short term. I mean, Green successfully eliminates blue.
He does. Blue is out.
But the lesson is found in what that cheating does to Green's psyche. By artificially removing his obstacle, he breeds a toxic, completely fabricated sense of security.
He becomes unbearably arrogant.
Mm.
With blue sidelined, Green looks around. He does the math in his head. He knows yellow is stuck in a pothole, orange is through a fence, and blue has flat tires.
And he actively notes that red is nowhere in view.
Right. And because the finish line is just a little ways ahead, Green decides to reward himself. Mid-race, with the finish line in sight, he pulls over to a fast food store.
He literally orders a burger and fries, please, in a sack. It is an astonishing display of hubris.
It really is.
It's the classic archetype of the hare taking a nap while racing the tortoise, just updated with a modern drive-thru.
But the psychology behind that burger order is what you really need to unpack with your students. Green makes a fatal, lazy assumption. He assumes that because he cannot physically see red, red just ceases to matter.
Green measures his success only against the rivals he deems worthy of his attention. He evaluated the flashy cars and defeated them through sabotage.
And ignored everyone else.
Right. By totally discounting the quiet, distant putt-putt of Little Red, Green falls victim to his own appetite and his lack of discipline. It proves a universal principle you can instill in young learners: cheaters eventually defeat themselves.
Yes.
Green's dirty tricks managed to get him to the front of the pack, but his character was far too weak to actually carry him across the finish line.
Which finally brings us back to the hero of our inspirational story. While this absolute chaos is unfolding on the track, while yellow is sidelined by vanity, orange is destroyed by recklessness, blue is victimized by sabotage, and green is sidelined by his own lazy arrogance, what is Little Red doing?
Little Red is executing the exact same game plan he had at the starting line.
The text points out that he was dead last early on, but it gives us the magic phrase, he never quit. He just kept coming. And this introduces our final, incredibly poignant vocabulary words for your lesson, quit and humming.
Yeah, the book describes Red's motor as keeping right on humming.
The word humming is such an evocative choice for an educator to highlight, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. It doesn't imply straining or redlining or struggling. It implies a steady, unbroken, peaceful rhythm, a state of flow.
So what does this all mean? Like, what does this mean for the child sitting at their desk listening to this story?
It's a great setup for a real-world connection.
Yeah, you can draw a really powerful analogy here. Little Red is exactly like the student who might not be the loudest hand raiser in class or, the natural flashy genius at mathematics.
Right, they aren't shouting for attention.
But they are the student who diligently sits down and does their homework every single day without fail. They don't seek a gold star for every minor achievement. Their brain just keeps humming along, absorbing a little bit more knowledge every single day, refusing to quit.
Red doesn't rely on spikes of adrenaline or the artificial boost of putting others down. His superpower is just his consistency.
I actually want to push back slightly on the way we traditionally teach these types of stories.
Oh, how so?
Well, the old cliche is slow and steady wins the race, right? Which often implies to kids that if you just walk slowly enough, you'll magically win a gold medal.
Right, just by virtue of being slow.
Exactly. But if you look closely at the mechanics of the Berenstain Bears narrative, Red didn't win by finding some hidden gear of incredible speed. He didn't morph into a race car at the final corner. He won simply by surviving the race, while every single one of his loud, flashy competitors actively self-destructed.
This race is an important question for how we define resilience to children. The inspirational lesson isn't just about the sheer physical act of persevering in a vacuum.
What is it about then?
The real lesson is about maintaining your internal pacing. Red never allowed the noise, the mockery, the bullying, or the blinding speed of others to dictate his internal state.
That's a great point. Let's explore that internal seat a bit more. How does that translate to the child's experience?
Consider the rhythm of Red's engine. It kept humming at the exact same frequency whether he was sitting in dead last getting laughed at and called a slowpoke, or whether he was quietly putting right past the fast food store where Green was casually waiting for a burger.
It never wavered.
Never. His internal state was completely decoupled from his external position in the race. When he was losing, he didn't speed up out of panic or insecurity. And when he found himself winning, he didn't stop for a snack out of arrogance.
He stayed entirely true to his own capacity. Putt was what his engine could handle, and he maximized that capacity without shame. And because he maintained that steady hum, because he rejected the temptation to quit when he was behind, he casually crosses the finish line.
And everyone goes wild.
Yeah. The bears all cheer, hooray, hooray, and the road race winner is declared. And even in victory, his final line in the book is brilliant. He doesn't suddenly unleash a massive roar to rub it in their faces. He just says, putt, putt, putt.
He remains humble. The victory doesn't corrupt him the way the prospect of victory corrupted the others.
So, to synthesize this for you, our listener, your mission is fully accomplished. You came looking for a way to captivate your elementary students with an inspirational narrative, and you now hold a phenomenal pedagogical tool.
It really is perfect for that age group.
You can read them, the Berenstain Bears and the Big Road Race, and sure, they will enjoy the rhymes and the colorful cars. But you will be delivering a profound lesson about the downfalls of vanity through yellow, the dangers of acting without wisdom through orange, and the toxic self-defeating trap of cheating through green.
All while championing the quiet, unstoppable force of internal validation and perseverance modeled by Little Red.
And you have a ready-made, highly contextual vocabulary list you can put right on the classroom whiteboard. You've got slowpoke, boastful, pothole, nerve, sense, dirty tricks, quit, and humming.
It's practically a prepackaged unit.
It is. You can walk your kids through how each of these specific words defines the psychological successes and failures of the characters on the page. It's a lesson plan that practically teaches itself.
It provides a framework for emotional intelligence as much as it does for reading comprehension. But before you close the book and finalize your lesson plan, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over, or perhaps a challenging question to pose to your students to really test their critical thinking skills.
Oh, I like a good challenge. What is it?
Well, we have spent this deep dive talking about how Red's steady perseverance won him the trophy. But look objectively at the mechanics of the track. If Yellow had just looked at the asphalt instead of bragging to the crowd, or if Orange had just used a tiny bit of sense and tapped the brakes at the curve, or if Green had just driven straight past the fast food restaurant.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. Little Red would have surely undeniably lost the race.
Exactly.
That is a staggering realization. Red didn't actually beat them on the track. They beat themselves in their own minds.
Right. What if the ultimate lesson hidden in this children's book isn't just about persevering against external bullies or faster opponents? What if the real takeaway we need to teach kids is that our biggest, most dangerous competitor on the road to success is often our own ego?
That reframes the entire starting line. You look at those massive, flashy, intimidating giants at the beginning, and you expect their roaring engines and their physical size to dictate the outcome of the race.
Because that's what we're taught to look at.
Exactly. But in the end, all of that noise, all of that posturing, and all of those dirty tricks were just a massive distraction from the real race happening inside their own heads. And the only driver who possessed a quiet enough mind to actually reach the finish line was the one who was perfectly content just going putt-putt.